Those of you who have been doing webinars with me so far know that I always like to have a collaborative document for us to use if we break out into sessions or if we want to share ideas. I always think when we can capture each other's ideas in one place, it is so helpful.
And the
So
link is in the,
I also, go
Beth, the
ahead,
link is
Val.
in the Google chat. The link is in the chat room as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So you just heard Valerie. She will be in the chat helping to moderate your questions. And then also we have Mitchell Lilly who is on the line too. So if you have any tech questions, just throw those in the chat. And so speaking of that, I always like to start with our Zoom logistics. I better have some more tea this morning so that I can speak, right? Zoom logistics. So we have muted all of your audio and we're asking that you put all of your comments in the chat, and that will help with a large group like we have. Now, if you're doing this with your students, you don't necessarily have to have everybody muted at the same time, but it does help with classroom management. And then your video, you can choose to have it on and off. That also depends on your bandwidth. It's totally up to you. I always suggest that you keep it on with your students because that's what it's all about, is seeing each other. And speaking of that, today I just saw on the Teaching During COVID-19 Facebook page, the teachers were just driving in the neighborhoods of their kids. So the kids were outside on their driveways, and the teachers were driving through and they were all waving at each other. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that is just such a great idea, and how neat to make those connections. Anyway, thought I would share that with you. And then just some Zoom norms. So basically, when we're in here, I will be hosting and sharing my screen. We use the chat to add conversation, and we may be breaking out. It just depends today with Google Classroom how much we can get through. Today it's heavy talking from my perspective, but hopefully we can add questions to chat and kind of break it up that way. And we'll see if we have time to break out. And then, like I said, we use our collaboration doc, and then we keep the mic muted to eliminate background noise. I thought I would share just a funny with you as we get started. My sister-in-law shared this with me and it cracked me up. So if this is your principal, just tell him that the door is locked and you are not letting him in to do an observation. So anyway, it just cracked me up. So thought we'd start with a funny. Now, let's get into why we use Google Classroom. So a lot of people talk about learning management systems, thinking that Google Classroom is a learning management system, and it is kind of a learning management system. I would say that I call it more of a digital workflow system, and that is because it doesn't have the analytics behind a learning management system. So if your district uses Schoology or Canvas or Powerhouse, anything like that, or PowerSchool, those offer more analytics in the back end. It offers more communication tools to parents. They also offer a more robust grading platform, which then also can connect to your student information system, which is your Infinite Campus Skyward. And so that's how it's different. Classroom, though, is a fantastic tool. If you don't have a learning management system in your district, don't worry. This will work to get information out to your students, to share ideas, links, assignments, to collect assignments back. It will do all of that kind of thing, and it works great. So why do we use it? Continuity of learning. We want to continue that now that we are quarantined indefinitely, well, until the end of April for sure. Thinking about how do we continue that learning? the best that we can do, right? And so this is a great place for that. I already talked about digital workflow. One thing that I've always heard from students especially is that it helps with organization. So, when kids, especially middle school, they're, papers are flying all over, they're at the bottom of their desk or in their lockers or crushed in the bottom of their backpacks. They always said, Google Classroom was a great way to keep themselves organized. It's a great way to keep yourself organized as teachers as well. It offers a great online discussion platform and a great place for you to provide feedback for your students. It does have a grading function. We'll talk a little bit about that today too, but remember, this does not connect. Typically, it does not connect to your student information system. Some districts are working on that piece, and so is Google, but it's not a norm, just so that you know that. All right, before we actually go into taking a look at Google Classroom, I just wanted to share something that was shared with me. This is called Minding the Gaps. And right now in our situation, I just thought it was so appropriate to share. So thinking about our psychological needs, safety needs, and then as we go up, thinking about using a tool like this to facilitate those types of needs. So just recently we talked about Zoom. We talked about capturing your instruction using different screen capture programs. This might be something to think about while using those tools. How can we make sure that everybody is okay? Tomorrow I'm going to talk about using Zoom as an instructional tool, and I'm really going to model that with you. So if you are interested and available at 11, join me for that. So let's get into trying Google Classroom today. Let's take a look on top of my screen here. The first thing you're going to do is actually get into Classroom. So if you have, and I don't have my email, if you have your Gmail open or your Drive, you'll always see these little, the Rubik's Cube, I always call it, on the right side. You can actually get to Classroom there by scrolling and finding your Classroom tab. You also can go to Classroom. I like to show this too. If you just type in classroom.google.com, it will take you to your Classroom dashboard. So here in my dashboard, I can actually get rid of one of these. So in your dashboard, it will look like this. And if you haven't actually used Classroom before, obviously you're not going to have these little icons in here. But what I want you to do is up in the right corner, click on the plus, and that's where you can join or create a class. So the great thing about Google Classroom is that you can also be a student in somebody else's classroom. For example, this one here from Mia, I was a student in the classroom. These I have created for other people. So what I want you to do first is I want you to create a classroom. This will pop up here and you can put in your classroom name, your section, subject, room. This is not required, but definitely put in your classroom name, right? And then create. It will come up with a template. You can then format. So here's my test classroom. It's purple. Go Warhawks. So here I can actually, the first thing I do whenever I get into a classroom is I select a theme. So you can see mine was purple by default. Yours may come up blue. Ah, and it's saying it can't work right now. Let me try it again. Let's go back and try that one more time. Well, let's go to one of my others. Let's go to, this is the one I was going to show you right here. So let's try this again. Let's see if it'll work on this classroom. Nope, it's not. It might be just because there's high traffic right now. Basically, what I wanted you to see is that you can select a theme, and in that theme, you have options like this option actually is from Google, but you also can put in a different banner if you just do a Google search for Google Classroom banners. You can make your own 1,000 pixels by 250, I think is what it is. But basically, just pick a banner. And a lot of times people will pick banners because they have some certain banners for like science, different content areas. So pick a banner that works for you. Once you have that, what I want you to notice on the top, of course, is your name, but then here's the class code, and you can actually click on this to display this. Now, this class code is important because that's how your students can access your class. So the first time that students come to you and you have created this class, all you have to do is put this up on your monitor and click on display. This will pop up nice and big, and you can join this class. Now, the one thing I was just going to say, no, you guys don't really want to join this class, but I was going to say typically it works just in your domain. So the students who have the same email ending address as you do, that's who can access your classrooms. Um, so if you're teaching adults across different districts, that's where it gets to be an issue, which is what I do. But I can get through that. So anyway, let's take a look at the classroom. Right now, what I want you to notice on the top are some things up here as well. So we've got our theme, we know what our class code is. I want you to notice that you have these options up on top. So over here on the left side, this will take you right back to your dashboard. It also shows you the calendar, so anything that you I should say this actually, when you create a class, what it does is it creates a classroom calendar. It also creates a classroom folder. So in your drive, you will have a folder for this class as well. So you can take a look at the calendar. So when you actually put up assignments, you can take a look at when they're done. This to-do will help you in all of your classes. So it's a to-do list of things that you have assigned and things that are coming up. And it will list out all of your like, oh, you need to check this assignment or check this assignment. You'll see it says to review and reviewed. I'm
And
not,
Beth, while that's loading up, just a couple of questions about students when you talked about adding users.
yeah.
So there's a question just about confidentiality. Would everybody see the students' names? So she's looking at FERPA confidentiality.
They do see each other's names. Yes.
Okay. So you could certainly, thinking about ways to get around that, you could use like a number or different codes or something.
Well, that would you. Well, I don't think you can actually because when you go under the people tab, what you will see is, and yeah, I
Mm.
just love it. It's loading. But you will actually see because they have to get in with their Google account.
Mhm.
So whatever Google account they have. So um, what I equate this to is students sitting in a classroom, right?
Mhm.
And so they know all of their classmates. This would just be everybody who is in the class. Does that make sense? So I
Yeah.
tell me about the confidentiality. I'm thinking like if parents see that or if because I have had this question before. I want you guys to think about this as a classroom and if a parent walked into a classroom, they would be able to see each other. Um, and they might know their names, they might not, but I don't know how we get around that piece.
Yeah. So if the person that asked that question, if you could just clarify that, and while they are, there's another question that you had mentioned that they need to have the same email domain. So there's one question. Some of us are k12.wy.us, and the students have a .org. Would that be a problem?
I don't think it's a problem because your Google Council is operating both.
Yep.
I believe that you should be able to work across that.
Okay.
If that becomes an issue though, no, because I actually know a school district who is using that kind of a scenario, and it's working. So
Okay.
I think it's fine if your Google Counsel is operating both. Yep.
All right. And then the question was for if special ed teachers are making their own classroom. I'm guessing then that those students, uh, yeah, so those students that are special ed would see the other students in the classroom and know that they're special ed. Is that if, and
Yeah,
if you want
let's
to,
talk
Emily,
about
if you want
that.
to turn on your mic and just clarify that, that would be maybe helpful. Okay. She says, I was going to make a separate classroom for each student, or if I can assign specific assignments to specific kids if I join their classroom teacher page. So I think the overall question is, given students who are special ed and might need modified assignments or something, just some ways to sort of address that.
Yeah, and actually, it's fantastic in Google Classroom because you don't have to have a separate classroom for them. You can assign certain things to people, certain people, um, and so you're able to see. They're only able to see what they're assigned, and then other groups of kids are only able to see what they're assigned. So you can be very specific, and not have any separation at all. You can differentiate without a problem.
Mhm.
Um,
And likewise, students are not able to see each other's submitted work. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. It's only between the instructors and the students. So what I was going to show you in People, just so that you know that, in People, you will see that you can add another teacher to be a co-teacher in this class, and you can add as many teachers as you want. So let's say that you have a grade level team and you want to add 5 teachers. You all can be co-facilitating this classroom. You can add your special ed, you can add OT, PT, whatever you want to these classrooms, and you do not have to have separate classrooms going on at all, which I love. I'll show you that through assignments too, how you can differentiate your assignments. Let's hope that I'm able to get to that piece. What I want you to know though over here too, as I go down here, I couldn't get to your to-do list, but what I want you to see on the bottom is this archived classes. So as you start creating all of these different classes and you take a look at your dashboard and you're like, oh my gosh, this is getting overwhelming, you can actually archive these classes with these 3 little dots right here. You can move it to archive. Now, archive saves it, just so you know, like it saves it in its little own repository. But if you then go to our archived classes on the left side that I just showed you, you will be able to delete classes out. So if you're like, okay, I'm totally done with this material, I got to get rid of it, you can get rid of it. You also can bring classes back to life, if you want to call it that, and bring them back to your dashboard as well. So I just want you to know you can do that. The other cool thing, as long as I'm on these 3 dots here in your dashboard, I want you to see that you can move these around. So like if you want 3 different classes up here on top, you certainly can move them around. You can edit a class, of course, and you can edit just by clicking on this. It's just editing your class title. And then the other piece is that I really want you to know is that you can copy. So let's say, for example, you create this great class shell that you're super excited about, and you have 3 different courses or 4 different courses during the day that you want to be using this with. You can copy that and create multiple courses off of that same shell. I have created, for example, this one here. This is training for 5th grade teachers in Mount Horeb. Now I'm doing 6th grade and 7th grade. So what I've done is I've copied actually those courses from year to year, of course, changing. But then I just have that shell. I also have all of the posts that I have created in the last class, and they're all in draft form. So it's really cool, and I'll show you that once we get to this course. So, Classroom, just so that you know, is constantly changing and upgrading. And so typically you'll see upgrades in June when ISTE is this big conference, ed tech conference. So a lot of the ed tech companies make their upgrades in June, the end of June, beginning of July. So you will see that they'll come out with some new strategies for Classroom probably at that time, and they're always adding more based on what you tell them. So if you have a great idea, just contact Google, let them know, and they really do take that seriously. So back in Classroom here, I'm back in my 5th grade classroom, and I'm on something called Stream. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, as far as I am concerned, I think Stream should be going like over here, because Stream to me is not as productive. Let's just say that. So what it does is anything that I ever post is here in the stream. If I want to make an announcement, I can put it in the stream. I guess that's one decent thing. The thing is that the stream gets pretty complicated. So I often tell students and teachers, don't work off of the stream. Go right directly to classwork. Now, last year, maybe it's a year and a half or two now, um, oh, please, please work for me. If this doesn't work, I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe I just restart and try again. But in the meantime, what I want you to know is classwork, what they have added is topics. And topics, now we can organize the topics. So it really helps with the learner to visually see where things are. Like I said, stream just kind of is just this big stream, obviously. But in classwork, you're able to organize. Oh, looks like it might be doing something. And and it's much easier for students to access off of classwork. And it's much easier for you to organize your thinking. So, for example, in this classroom that I've created for these 5th grade teachers, I have something called agendas. So every time I go to see them, I have an agenda and we work off of that agenda. I always post it in here. We work off of different tools. Any tool, I have something called a toolbox for them. I have that all organized in here. Any kind of like implementation, like as they're implementing technology and digital strategies, I have that in another section as well. And I am going to do this. Let's try this. We're going to just close this. And let's try it again. Val, do we have any questions? Burning questions?
Yeah, there's a couple questions while you're getting loaded. So we have a teacher who teaches Phi-Ed, and she has over 100 students. She wants to use Google Classroom. The most efficient way for her to add them all, and they are 3rd through 6th graders. So can you do a bulk load of students?
Yes. So what I would suggest is from your information, your student information system, get a download of their emails. Once you have a download of their emails, copy those emails, and in the people tab, okay, this is crazy, you guys. I can't even get on right now. So in the people tab, what I want you to do is you can click on invite. Maybe all of you guys need to go to a new tab and just open Classroom right now, and I can talk you through it. And it could be your visual, right? It can be up for you. And while you're opening Classroom, I'm going to go and see if my son is streaming upstairs. That might be my issue, or it might be Classroom. I'm not sure. All of you guys go try to get on Classroom right now, and I will be back in a second.
Right, so if you remembered, what you want to do is go into the little checkerboard in Google, and then if you scroll down, there is an option for Classroom. It's a little green icon, looks like a chalkboard, if you remembered what chalkboards look like. Once you click that, then you can start to create your own classroom. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to do that.
Okay, everybody's still in bed. Not
So
sure.
Beth, if you'd like me to share my screen, I can get a classroom up, but we could do a little demo here.
I would
Um,
love that, Val.
okay,
If
excellent.
you could do it.
I just created one for my children about cleaning the yard, so they love having a parent who's an educator.
Don't
They are so excited. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to pretend that I've never used it either. So guide us.
All right. So,
You can see my screen, okay?
yes,
Okay.
it's great. So, which one do you want to go into?
So this is the one I just created about my children cleaning the yard, or we can start and create a new one if you'd like.
You know what? Let's see. Let's go into whichever. Let's go into Maggie's class.
Okay.
And let's see what you have here. So let's just X that out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just telling you. And go up to classwork. And in classwork, you guys, you can see there's nothing here yet. But what we're going to do is
Well, just
populate.
cleaning the
Oh,
yard.
just cleaning the yard. Yeah, thank goodness. So this is where you actually can create that organization I was talking about. So let's click on the create button. And let's go to the first one, assignment. And you can just X that out. Got it. Yep. And so this is where you create assignments. This is where you can give students, let's say, a Google Doc to fill out, or a presentation, whatever you want. So we can just put in a title, just put in whatever, Val.
Make. Okay.
Awesome, awesome. And then you can add instructions in there on the bottom. Yep, you can add just some instructions if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Open this document or collaborate with the team member, whatever. You just put in your instructions there. And then on the bottom there where it says add or create, this create button is new, which is kind of fun, but go ahead and click on add first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And under add, you can see that you can add different folders, files, YouTube links, whatever you have, you can add, whatever example. This is where those of you who have done screencasts, you can actually add screencasts of yourself here as well, talking through the instructions. There you go. Start off by making your bed, which is really funny because I just had another post this morning that said that too. When you're working at home, you guys, you
Mm-hmm.
should start by making your bed. So I'm glad we're covering this topic. So if you click on create, go ahead and click on
Yep.
create. Let's say that you don't have something that you have ready for the students yet, like you haven't created it in your drive. You can actually do it right here. We're not going to do that, but let's just pretend that we can, and we will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is all good. We've got our link, we've got our directions. Let's go to the right. This is where we can differentiate. So right now, we're in Maggie's class, but if you click on, do you see where it says 4 up a little bit, Val?
Mm-hmm.
Click on that arrow. And you can actually post this assignment to multiple classes. So let's say that you have biology, third, fifth, and seventh hour. You can actually have this ready for your students in all 3 hours by clicking on the different classrooms. So it's not like you have to go to each classroom to do it, right? In your multiple classrooms. The other option is, can you go up to all students? Yes. Now, students who have been, who are now members will have access to this assignment, but you can choose who does, and you can see like all students, or do we just want Alex to be learning about making his bed? And so this is where you do your differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have 3 different groups in your classroom on the same topic, doing work that might be at however you differentiate that, different levels or whatever that is. So this is how you would access different students. All right, then underneath that you'll see points and you'll see ungraded. This is where you can decide, do you want to have this worth a certain amount of points or ungraded? Let's do ungraded. Many school districts now are contemplating, of course, standard base or pass fail even for the rest of the year. So you might want to start thinking about that. How are you grading? Now, if you keep cruising down, you'll see there's no due date. You can choose a due date here. And you can actually, once you choose the date, you can actually choose a time too. So I know a lot of different assignments are due, this is for college kids, I'm thinking, are due at 11:59 p.m. on a Friday or something like that. And so you can choose what time of the day as well that you want that due. And then this is the topic part. So right now, Val doesn't have any topics in her classroom. So we might want to choose create topic, and the topic might be making your bed, right?
I'm going to call it general room care.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Now, the other piece underneath, this is new since June, is adding a rubric. So if you want to actually add a rubric to guide them in how they're making their bed, you can either create a rubric right in here. You can reuse one that you have already made in Classroom, or you can actually upload, but the only way that you can upload is from a Google Sheet at this point, as far as I know. So I know some of our rubrics are in Docs, but if you can change that, you can, certainly can do it, or you can create your rubric right here.
So
So
the criterion would be, for example, in this example, pillowcases, or in an academic example, it might be paragraph structure or something like that.
exactly. Yep. Play around with this rubric builder and see how it works for you. There are some tutorials just on this that you may want to check out. I did add on our resources the Google Teacher Training Center, and it talks about creating these. We won't have time today to create a giant rubric, but certainly take a look at that. And if you want to use rubrics in Google Classroom, do that. So you can just X out of this, Val, up on the top left. There you go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last piece I just want you to take a look at, do you see that originality reports, that check there? So if we were in, like if we were submitting an essay or some kind of writing, or what Google will do when this is submitted, this assignment is submitted, it will actually check for plagiarism. This also is a new function. So many of us use third-party tools for that, but this actually will help with that as well. And sometimes it's not to catch students, but it's a teaching time for students as well. So that's what that is about, if you want to check that. All right, so we won't check it this time. You can cancel that. Now let's go up to the right top where it says assign. And if you click on the down arrow.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
that's
I
okay.
already assigned it. So to
Let's
go
go
back,
back.
looks like I go here.
Mhm.
Okay.
X out. So we actually assign this, but if you scroll, go ahead and do the back arrow.
Okay.
Yep, let's go back here. If you go up to the three dots to the right, there you go. You can rename, you can delete this post. So can you click on the three dots?
Mm-hmm.
Once you post it, the only way that I know of, unless some of you have figured something else out, the only way to unpost something is actually to delete the post. But let's see if, no, I was going to say, what I want you to know, you guys, what Val did is she clicked assign. Next to assign, there's a little drop down arrow. And actually, let's go back up to create. I'll show you this in another one. Let's go to quiz. Oh,
Oh,
excellent.
I'm sorry.
You are just a cruising
I
along.
am just a little happy clicker. I'm going to go here.
Let's go to
Create.
create and go to quiz assignment.
Okay.
So this is the same kind of thing. Go ahead and X out. Yep. And the only difference in this one is that you're actually creating a quiz for students to take, and it's using Google Forms for that quiz. So you could do the same. We're not going to do this, Val, but we're going to, you would title it instructions, add any resources that you need. But when you click on blank quiz, could you click on that, please? You will see that it takes you immediately to Google Forms, and you can start creating your quiz in here. So the neat part about this is that it's inside of Classroom now. Whereas prior to this, you would have to go out to your Drive or Forms, create a form, a quiz, attach it. Now it's actually right in Google Classroom. So you can go ahead and create your quiz here. Let's just click on the back arrow. Let's get out of here.
Doesn't
Or
seem to
is
be
it
an
a
option, so I just go
oh,
to the tab, yeah?
yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
And so once you have your quiz done, a couple things I want you to see. On the right side where it says lock mode on for Chromebooks, right there, yep. If you put that on, what it does is when students are taking their quiz or assessment, it locks the students into just that tab. So students can't go look up information. They can't be on another tab doing whatever. Once they go into this quiz or assessment, it will lock them in. So you can choose to have that on or off. It's totally up to you. And then the other let's see, down here where it says grading importing, that will just keep that on, because what it does is it takes your form and your assessment, whatever the students, how they did on it, their grade, whatever you want to call it, will go right into Classroom for you. All right. And then over here on the right side, same kind of thing. Who gets this? Now let's go up to that drop down arrow. Val, I don't know if
Under
you
assignments or
can
students?
assign.
Oh, mhm.
Yes, right there. All right, you guys, if we had a title and everything in this, you would see that you could assign it at that point. You can schedule when you want to assign this. So I do this so that it doesn't, because kids will get notifications of a new post or something in their classroom. I typically don't assign, I typically schedule the assignment. So, for example, with my fifth grade teachers at Mount Horeb, what I would do is if I'm going to see them that day at 8 o'clock on March 26th or something, I would schedule it for 8 o'clock. It will then be assigned. It will pop up and be live in the classroom at 8 a.m. when I have scheduled that. Okay. Now that's a new function too, relatively new. I bet that's probably a year or so. It used to just be that you would save a draft. And then what you would do is you would post your draft when you were with the classroom or whatever. You certainly can do that too. So let's say that you save a draft, it will show up in your classroom as gray, and students will not be able to see it. As soon as you're with that classroom, you can actually then populate that. So for example, I said biology is 3 different hours of a day. You might, because you are actually populating this assignment in 3 different classes, you may save it as a draft and then actually release it when you're with the students, or schedule, either way.
So
Okay,
there are some questions in the chat. It looks to be relevant to assignments. Can we go there
let's
for a
do it.
minute? Excellent. Let me just get in here. So here's just a question about co-teaching. If you co-teach and you're added to a general ed teacher's classroom, they post to all the students. Can you remove the assignment for the special ed student and replace it with another one?
Once it's posted, it's hard to remove. Like I said, you can delete it, but that deletes it for everybody. I guess what I would do is communicate with those students that you are posting a different assignment for them, maybe, or
Mhm,
you don't want to say another assignment right on top of it, and they can disregard that other post.
mhm.
I
And
would
then,
just suggest
um,
emailing
I'm sorry,
them.
and then there was just a follow-up to that one. To piggyback, can I assign if I am the co-teacher to only my kids? Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yep.
think we demonstrated that one where Alex is supposed to be making his bed, although I think he's playing PlayStation. Um, let's see. Yeah, and so Jen is saying exactly what you said, just being in communication with the classroom teacher.
Yep.
And lock mode seems to be a really valuable feature. And it did say lock mode on Chromebook. So is that only for Chromebooks?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. And then is that lock mode just in Classroom, or can you do that in Google Forms?
You can do it in Google Forms as well. Yes. Yes. So when you're in Forms, you click on the gear for settings and you go to, I believe it's quiz or quizzes, and that you can find that setting in there as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And then if a teacher is split between two buildings, can she have one classroom, or is it better to have one for each school?
Oh, it's totally up to you, however you want to manage. You certainly can have one classroom in those two locations as long as it's the same domain. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes I say it depends on how many students you want in the classroom, what you can manage. So some people have said, well, should I just have one classroom for my biology? I'm stuck on biology today classes, and they're all in the same. Once you start doing discussions, if you have 100 kids in one classroom, it gets a little bit unwieldy. It kind of gets out of control.
Mhm.
You may want to just section those off if you
Okay.
can. Now, I'm thinking like for special area teachers, art teachers, if you want to do it by grade level, sometimes they do it by grade level, and it gets like I said, you might have 100 students in that. If you're just going to use it to share information and you're not doing a lot of assignments where you're getting them back, I think that's one thing. But once you start doing that digital workflow back and forth, you might want to chunk it up a little bit.
And then just another sort of management question too. This person works at the district or department level. She'd like
Yeah.
to create a shell Google Classroom with assignments, and then each teacher can make their own copy so that they can manage it at the school level. Is that a possibility?
The only way that they could make a copy of that shell is, okay, I'm thinking out loud here, is if they were co-teachers of that. So what you would have to do is, if you can get a list and an email of your teachers. Now, I don't know how big the district is, but they could become co-teachers of that classroom, and then they can make a copy of it for their own use. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and then let's see. Is there a way to create groups of students?
They don't have that option yet. So like if you had a pull down, instead of just clicking on those separate students, there would be a group, like a contact group almost,
Hmm.
boom, and you would have those students.
Okay.
No, they don't really have that yet, but that is a great suggestion. So
Yeah.
I would love for that to happen.
Mhm. And then can you see what it looks like from the student view?
Sure. Actually, if you go to, do you want to X this out?
Yep.
And then I think, Val, are you a student in that
Uh,
no
Good
class?
question. I think so. Let me see. Yes, it looks
Yeah.
like I am.
Yep. So this is where Val and I am also a student in this classroom. So you can see this. Let's go to up to classwork in this one and see.
I might not have done my classwork, but
Oh, that's okay,
okay.
but check this out. This will help us. Oh, this is great because now you can see the topic. So you can see her topic is read first, welcome, introduce yourself, chapter 1, chapter 2. These are all topics. So as she's creating her assignments, she's putting these into topics. And on the left side, take a look at the left side. Do you see all the topics? If we were to click on chapter 1, you'll see that. Let's click on, a different chapter 7 or something,
Hmm.
and you can see all of the posts that she's done under those topics. This is what I think is beautiful in
Hmm.
Classroom now, is that we have this organization. The other thing too, if you go over, Val, would you go over to the three dots next to read first, welcome? If you click on that, you can actually move these topics around. So like, for example, when I created agenda, I wanted agendas always to be at the top when students came into their classwork. I always wanted to have the toolbox at the bottom, so I moved that to the bottom. So you can move your topics around depending on how you want your students to view those.
So there's a question in the chat, getting my assignments under the correct topic. Is that just a matter of moving as well?
So if you can do that, but if you go up to create, and let's go to question now. Let's go to the third one. And you can see we could do our question here on the, let's go over to the right where it says topic.
There we go.
There we go. And this is where you would choose your topic. So go ahead, yep. And then this would go under chapter 1, this question, and we could post a question out there. Yep, perfect.
Great.
Who is this question for? Remember, you can ask all students or certain students depending on your needs.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then it looks like there's another question just about integrating voice over to the PowerPoint or Google Slides and video instructions. Would that be done here or in another tool?
Yeah, so that would be done in another tool. This does not have that yet. But what you would do is if you wanted to do a video of yourself or talking about the instructions, what I would do is that Screencastify or Loom and record yourself talking about the instructions. Either you can just do your webcam, recording yourself talking to them, or you can do where you're showing your screen and it's recording your screen and you're talking through the assignment, giving them context. Once you do that, you can share that link. That's why I like Screencastify, because it goes right to my Google Drive. I have a shareable link, boom. Loom too, though, you get your shareable link. You can then put that right in this, as when you click on add, you can add a link and that will add your video explaining this context.
And there's also a question about how students can respond. So can students respond by uploading a video or picture as well?
Sure. Yeah, they can. They can add as well, just like what you see, they can add different content. They certainly, if you share a Google Doc, it will create a document for each of your students. And they would actually put, their response on that, but they also can add as well. They can add a, video or whatever they have, any information.
And then Jill is just saying that she has just learned that you can download the Google Classroom app on your phone, and it's really easy to use from your phone as well.
Yes,
And
it's fantastic, the app. So if you guys have iPads too, that's why I've seen kids in kindergarten using Google Classroom already. So iPads too, there's a great app for sure. What are we at? We're at 11:50.
yeah, and then there was just a post saying that, hey, there's a lot of questions in the document. So
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
mhm.
You know what, though, before we take a look at that, can we go back to, let's get out of questions. So remember, Google Classroom is a great platform to have discussion questions, so you certainly can have that. Let's go back there, yep. And let's go to classwork. Just real quick, I just want you to go up to create. Two more things that I want you to know of. So you can create questions, so there's a lot of discussion. You can click on material. I use material a lot in my field of work because I'm just sharing material out. So this is not an assignment. I'm not grading. You can see on the right side, there's none of that. You can decide who's getting it still and for what class, and put it under a topic so that you can organize it. But this has nothing to do with grading or anything like that. This is like, hey, I want you to take a look at this, or you might have some kind of announcement or something. Check out this article, whatever. But that's what this material is about. So let's X that. And then the last one I want you definitely to know about. So if you click on create and go down to reuse post, this is actually where you can, anything that's been posted, you can actually go and get and repost it in another classroom. So let's say that the what was that one, that class called the potential of
Yep.
EL or something like that. So
Uh-huh.
unlocking the EL potential. So you'll see all of these posts, and maybe Alex wants to learn about one of these topics, and we could post it in Maggie's classroom.
He definitely does.
He's very interested. And you can do all of this too. You can do the management parts of this too. Who gets the post? When do you want to post it? And all of that good stuff.
And
So
before
no,
you asked me to go to the drop down and before I was clicking, did you
there we
want,
go.
I'm
You
going to
can go
schedule
ahead.
this for him so he has something to do tomorrow.
Perfect.
There we go.
And so it will pop up in here tomorrow at 8 a.m. So that's how you reuse. Now, I didn't tell you about the topic in here. So if you go to create one more time and then go down to topic, this is where you can manage your topic. So you can add a topic. Go ahead and add just something. So if, there you go. Remember, when you do any of these other create options, assignments, so on, you can add topics always in that function, but you also can do it up here in the create button. All right. Now, you will see also, before we leave this page, you'll see Google Calendar and Class Drive folder. Just know that, remember, it makes a Google Calendar. It will populate in your on your calendar. So if you drop down here, now Valerie will see this calendar in her on her calendar list, other calendars. The way that you can get rid of that if you don't want it, so if it's driving you crazy, if you click on the settings of that calendar, you can unsubscribe to that calendar, just so you know that. All right, let's go back to, we only have about 5 minutes. I want to go back to a couple things. People please, Val, on the
Mm-hmm.
top. So this is where you can add your co-teachers right here. You can see that. And this is where you'll see students, and you can actually, where if you click on the student little body with the plus, yeah, right there. This is where you can type in their email and invite students. So remember how I said go ahead and copy from your student information system, get that list. You can post it in here, or I mean, paste it in here and then send out an invite that way. All right, let's cancel. And then grades. Quickly, we'll just take a look at grades as you are doing. So we don't have a lot of assignments in this classroom, but as you are populating your assignments, you'll be able to see that you will have columns of every assignment that you have populated. You can click on that assignment and you can actually see what the students are doing. If they're on time, if they've turned something in, you can look at assignments in here and you can return assignments. Um, so because we don't really have anything populated here, it's hard for us to really look at that. On the left side, though, you're going to see all of your students who are members of the class, and you'll be able to, you can actually just click on that student's name and you'll be able to see what they have turned in. It's kind of like, yeah, right here, you can see it's just a report of what they've turned in, what they're missing, and so on.
And then,
So,
so when we think about younger children, there's a question in the chat. Can you add parents, or would they log in with a student account? How have you seen that done?
yeah, so under people, let's go back to people. Thank you for that question. I need to tell you
Oops.
about that. So let's go back to people, and let's see. I don't see that you have guardians on here. It is actually a function in your settings, you guys. So you want to turn that on to make sure. Nope, we don't want any of this. Nope. I think it might be in our classroom settings.
Okay.
Anyway, in this option, in the people option, you will be able to invite guardians. And so guardians actually get notification. They're not actually part of the classroom. If you want them to be part of the classroom, you certainly can invite them where they, so the younger students and their parents are in the classroom details.
Mhm.
guardian notifications usually go out weekly or daily, and it will tell them about the activities that were posted in this classroom, but it doesn't really give them access to the classroom.
Right.
So
I
if
get
you
that as a parent, I'll just say, for my children when they're in their academic school, and it's really nice. So I know every week what they're doing.
Yes, yeah, so it's great. Parents can sign up for a weekly or a daily notification, and that just goes right to their email.
And so
So
at what grade would you make that transition? There's a question in the chat also, from the parents as the guardians to the youngest grade that you might, actually the question is the youngest grade that you would suggest using Classroom with.
well, yeah, in this situation, I mean, we are using tools we probably wouldn't with younger kids, because we have to, right? So if I have actually seen kindergarten use Google Classroom, and they are fantastic at it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to get too sophisticated in here. You can make it very basic where they go get their post, they see their post in classwork, they click on it, and so on. But as far as having parents be a part of this, I would say K2 is really good at this moment in time. I would definitely communicate with parents that you are asking, and that would be with any student, even up to high school, that we are using Google Classroom now. This is how we're going to be disseminating digital assignments or information to students. This will be our communication tool if you want to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Seesaw works really well for the younger kids as well. Some of you might be using Seesaw. It's kind of, it's a digital portfolio, also a really good communication tool, and has great activities in there. So if some of you are using Seesaw, you may not need to use Google Classroom, but check out the functionality and see what works for you on both of those.
And
Val,
I wonder, my domain doesn't have students, so I wonder if maybe it's a little bit limited because there is some discussion in the chat about where they're finding the capability to add parents. So I'm guessing it's a limitation of just that we don't have students. So
and it could be, are you guys finding it? I hope you're finding
yeah,
it.
some people are finding it. They said under the people tab, it's coming up under students as a link to invite parents right next to the student's name.
Yes, perfect. Yay, good.
Yeah, we don't have children at CISA 2 yet, so.
No, not yet. So that's kind of Classroom in a nutshell, you guys. I know that we had a few glitches, and thank you so much, Valerie, for sharing your screen. I know that on our document here, you will see, did we cover most of these questions, Val?
Creating tests and quizzes, I believe so. And feel free in the chat if you don't feel like these have been answered. Does Google Classroom work alongside Zoom? Do you just want to talk about the difference between Zoom and Google
Sure.
Classroom?
Yeah, so Zoom is that right now we're Zooming, so we're having time face to face together. So that's called synchronous learning, connecting together. Google Classroom is a platform where you can use, like you could be saying to your students, so today I posted in Google Classroom this great article. I'd love you to take a look at, or check out the video in Google Classroom that I posted today. So it's more of an asynchronous tool. So you don't have to be there for students to access it. They can access it anytime after you schedule the post, obviously. But so yes, those two work together. So this using Zoom is not face to face, but it's at the same time. Whereas Google Classroom, you can post things and they can access that at any time.
Mm-hmm. And same with the teaching online with a headset and microphone. You can teach asynchronously. You can certainly record things. So it wouldn't necessarily be required for a Google Classroom, but you could create external content. Let's see what else. Uploading a document. I feel like we did that. Uploading a document for which each student would have their own copy.
Yes, it does that
Yeah.
automatically. Yep,
Okay.
it will do that automatically.
And then changing the font size, is that just in the settings of the class?
I don't think you can change the font, to be honest. That is a
Okay.
great question, but I have not seen a setting for that yet.
Okay.
If somebody finds that, or maybe even make that suggestion to Google,
Hmm.
this is it. This is like the font setting. So
Yeah, but certainly in the assignments and things that you attach, you could have
absolutely,
different, and let's
absolutely.
see, I think, and then going back to the chat, um, can kids record themselves reading in Google Classroom? So again, do you want to just talk about how they could do that with an external tool?
Yeah, they can't do that within classrooms, so they don't have a recording function yet. Some of your LMSs will. If you have Schoology or Canvas, they actually do have a recording function in there. But Google Classroom does not. So what you would want your students to do is they can either do that on Flipgrid. I think Flipgrid is a great tool for kids to be reading into the camera. Now, Flipgrid typically has a 5-minute video cap on it, but if they want to, they can, then you can teach them Screencastify. They could capture themselves reading in that. Or Loom, of course, that's another option.
Hmm.
They could do it in Zoom, but we're not going to get into that right now. Um,
Good. And then
yeah,
just some logistics. They see that this is recorded, and will the link be available? And then secondly, how can they contact us for more follow-up information?
yes. Okay, so I'm so glad they came up with that. So on our sheet right here that Val has in front of us, you're going to see more CISA 2 webinars this week. So if you click on that link, you'd be able to see what's coming up. The second link there is
Oh,
office hours. So I don't know why that just happened. That happened to another district. I'm going to have to change that.
okay.
I'll change that link to make sure that that is working. The second is office hours. Every day this week, I'm on my computer in a chat room. If you have any individual needs, please come and join me from 1 to 2. And then lastly, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you will find the recordings are all at that link right there. And then here are some Google Classroom resources. And could you just click real quick on that last one that says Google Teach from Home?
Hmm.
I want you all to see this as well. This is something Google put together. And if you
Nice.
scroll down, what I love about this is that it's kind of putting tools together that will help with teaching remotely. So here you can see video calls if you keep scrolling down. You'll see classroom is on there, quizzes and so on, accessibility, which we talked to, keeping kids engaged, and then,
Yeah, nice.
yeah, it's a great toolkit for you right there. So I wanted to share that as well. So just,
And then last
oh,
question, will there be a participation completion certificate?
yes, and so if you need that certificate, Mitchell, are you on? Can you tell them how that they can get their certificate?
Yep, so those certificates will be generated and emailed out directly to you at some point later this week.
Awesome. So you'll be getting it later this week. So thank you for joining us for Google Classroom 101. Hopefully this has gotten you started. And join us tomorrow for Zoom for teaching and learning, and then Zoom 101. So if you haven't used Zoom yet, hold off on tomorrow and join us on Friday for Zoom 101. And if you have used Zoom a little bit and tinkered in it, join us tomorrow. So, so good to see all of you. Take care and be well.
Yeah, thanks everybody.